Welcome. Divine Mandate. Not everyone is afraid of your power. They're scared that you keep getting through situations they set up to kill you. Chosen one. Let's be very honest. People are squinting, whispering, and clutching their chests like they're watching a movie they didn't pay for. Your life has become something like that. People start to look at you like you're related to Houdini when you get up from something that should have killed you. And the funniest part is that you're just trying to mind your own business, drink water, and avoid trouble. But somehow, your existence keeps going against what they expect. This is a true fact. Psychology research shows that people are more afraid of things they can't predict than things that are known to be dangerous. And that's what explains all the confusion about you. You don't move like they think you will. They think you'll fall apart. But you don't. You don't stay stuck where they said you rot. Your strength breaks the pattern that their minds depend on. You aren't just hard to predict for them. You can't be explained. Let's be honest. As soon as you got out of the traps that were meant to keep you there, people started looking at your life like it was a scientific oddity. They're playing your story over and over again, saying things like, wait, how did they come back from that? They want answers, but you keep giving them results. You keep doing things that society says will take years, money, and permission, but you do it with instinct, determination, and a little bit of divine timing and attention. Oh, believe me, they do. Every time you leave for a while and come back, people react like they do when a character in a horror movie who everyone thought was dead comes back stronger, calmer, and somehow glowing. That's why they look. That's why they talk in whispers. That's why they are afraid of you. Your life didn't go as planned. They're still on page 3, but you're already working on the next book. And just to add a little humor, some of your enemies have been refreshing your downfall for so long that they now look like customer service agents whose systems keep crashing. They're angry, confused, and ready to blame the universe for your upgrades. But the truth is still true. You do things that other people think are impossible, not because you're magical, but because you're in line, aware, and built to last. And that alone is enough to make even the most brave enemies look at you like you're changing reality. That's why they think you're Houdini. This is what makes them afraid. And this is exactly what we're going to talk about today. First, they thought your life had limits until you walked through the walls they built to keep you out. They worked for years to keep you small by building invisible cages with rules, expectations, and tricks. Every limit, every jab, and every effort to define your boundaries was meant to make you easy to predict, control, and eventually break. They thought you would give in to their plans because that's what everyone else did. They thought that life had limits for you, just like it did for them, but they didn't take into account that you didn't want to live in someone else's story. They didn't see that the walls they built weren't just physical or situational. They were mental, emotional, and even spiritual. They thought they could put your growth, survival, and success in a box, stamp it with their approval, and keep it safe. They thought that if they made enough problems for you, you would give up, fade away, or at least follow their rules. That's why they think everything you do is impossible. You didn't just get away. You went through their walls like they weren't there. You didn't bend, break, or fall. You got better and better. The things they did to keep you under control taught you lessons that made you more resilient, more determined, and more aware of your instincts. Now they're looking at someone who won't accept limits with wide eyes. They don't get how you deal with stress that would break most people. They say it's luck or magic because people can't understand your freedom. You don't just live. You do well in ways that go against everything they thought would happen. They wanted a version of you that was small, easy to handle, and predictable. Instead, they got a version that can't be touched, stopped, or predicted. It's not just what you do that scares them. It's about the fact that nothing they built could stop you. You're living proof that they don't have power over you. Every time you get past their efforts to trap or control you, it shows that they thought too highly of themselves and too little of you. They thought your life had an end, but the truth is that your spirit never did. You are proof that rules only work when they don't apply to the right person. And when they see you rise above everything that was meant to hold you back, they can't help but think that their whole system of control is a joke. Second, your comeback seems supernatural to them, because they don't know how many times you died inside and came back to life. People think it's amazing how you can win and then get back up after things go wrong. They think that things are going your way or that luck is on your side. They can't see the private fights you had when no one was watching. And that's what scares them the most. They don't know about the times when your mind screamed to give up, your heart felt broken, and your soul had scars that were too heavy to explain. They only see the version of you that comes out of chaos looking perfect. To them, it seems impossible. You get stronger every time you come back because you've already fought wars inside yourself that most people couldn't even handle once. You've had to rebuild yourself over and over, taking away what was weak, learning from every cut, and beauty and strength that can be taught. Your enemies think that destruction ends a person, but they don't know that your breaks don't break you, they make you better. Instead of breaking you down, each challenge made you stronger, sharpening your instincts, your focus, and your ability to act in ways that seem almost supernatural to people who don't know you. You aren't strong because you don't feel pain. It's about putting up with it and using it to grow in ways that no one can see coming. That's why they think your comebacks are impossible. They think it's chance or luck, but in reality, it's a mix of never giving up and knowing yourself very well that they will never have. Every problem you face, every trap they set, and every time they try to keep you down has only made you stronger and more precise in your responses. They're scared because they know you can't be stopped. They are scared because they know they couldn't handle what you've been through. It's not magic when you come out of trials looking calm, focused, and unshakable. It's proof of the many times you've been hurt inside and chosen to start over. You know how to stay alive in ways they don't even know about, and that mastery scares them because it shows how weak they are and that what they thought was your weakness has always been your secret weapon. Your rise isn't by chance, it's going to happen. And that sense of inevitability is what makes you feel untouchable. People are afraid of you because you solve problems that you weren't trained to do. You just know how to do it. People don't call you unpredictable or Houdini because you try to do the impossible. It's because you work on a level that most people don't even know exists. While other people spend years learning, reading, and asking for help, you know how to get through chaos and find solutions in situations that seem impossible. They get confused because your mind doesn't follow the rules they know. They are scared because they can't figure out what you're going to do next. And it feels like magic when you can't map someone. People are always afraid of magic. Your enemies think that life works according to their logic and that problems should be solved in the ways they've been taught, with the steps and approvals they're used to. You don't follow those instructions. You see the heart of the problem and take it apart at its source. You improvise clearly, act precisely, and move quietly while the rest of the world tries to figure out what's going on. They watch what you do and get scared because they can't figure out how to get the same results. There is no plan they can follow, no quick way to catch up. Your brilliance is more than just talent. It's something you learn from every challenge, every trap, and every time you had to take care of yourself. It's more than just skill. It's a vision. You don't just fix things. You can see problems coming before they happen. People who depend on rules, procedures, or consensus can't see how you act. People see that unpredictability as dangerous because it makes them feel like they have no control. People feel powerless when they can't handle a situation, and fear comes from feeling powerless. Life has taught you more than any book or teacher ever could. It has done so in the hardest classrooms and the most extreme situations. Every time you give them an answer they didn't think of, it reminds them that their systems are only as strong as the people who use them. And your mind doesn't follow those rules. That's why it seems like you can solve problems like a superhero. That's why they can't stand to see you keep doing well. They're not afraid of what you do. They're afraid of how you always seem to know what to do. Fourth, they hate that their whole support system couldn't stop you from doing what you did on your own. Your enemies thought they had one advantage that would make sure you failed. Fakirs, they leaned on each other, whispered in groups, plotted in circles, and made whole networks based on the idea that their combined efforts would be enough to stop you from moving forward. They were sure that they could beat someone who didn't have the same people behind them if they all worked together. But when you succeeded without any of the support, approval, or backing they need, it hurt them more than any loss. People don't give enough credit to someone who is used to being alone. When life makes you figure things out on your own, it makes your instinct stronger. It gives you strength that you can't share and resilience that you can't borrow. You learn skills out of necessity, even though they didn't think you had any because they thought being alone was a weakness. Instead, being alone is what made you better. You learned how to think clearly, how to do things on your own, and how to move without asking anyone for permission. They're shocked because they're used to working together. You know how to control yourself. They are angry because they know that no matter how many people they got together, how many lies they told, or how many problems they put in your way, you still broke through. Your achievements are not lessened or shared. They belong to you completely. You don't win because of groupthink or the strength of the group. They come from being aligned with yourself, being determined, and being able to get through problems without needing other people to agree with you. That's what makes them angry. Your freedom shows them something they don't want to see. They are only strong when they are with others. They fall apart without their friends, groups, and alliances. When they're in groups, they talk a big game, but they fall apart when they have to stand alone. In the meantime, you've been doing everything on your own, quietly laying the groundwork for something that doesn't need outside help. That's why your success affects them in a different way. It goes against everything they thought they were and makes them face their dependence. The truth is that they were not only upset that you won, but they were also embarrassed. People who are insecure are most afraid of people who don't need what they have to live. Your solitude broke their whole system, and they can hide that wound. Number 5. You scare people because you can tell what they want before they even say it. You have a way of reading people that makes them feel bad even when you don't mean to. You catch the smallest changes, like when their tone wavers, their energy changes, or when their words don't quite match up. You see things before the other person even knows they've let you see them. You aren't looking for anything. That's just how your mind works. You notice behavior in a way that others can't fake, can hide from, and definitely can't control. That alone is enough to make some people feel uneasy around you. Most people go through life hoping that no one will find out what they want. They use charm to hide jealousy, excuses to hide guilt, and forced kindness to hide anger. But none of that works on you. You don't fall for smooth words or fake smiles. You don't believe in lines that have been practiced or performances that have been carefully planned. You can tell why the person is acting the way they are before they even finish talking. And because you pick it up so easily, they feel vulnerable in ways they aren't used to. They think your perception is otherworldly. You catch the truth without even trying, just like other people catch sound. You don't need proof or a confession. The behavior of people is the confession. The pattern shows the reason before the mouth makes up an excuse. That level of understanding is scary, especially for people who gain from confusion or lies. If someone can lie to you, they can't control you. They can control you if they can't get you to do what they want. They are afraid of you when they can't control you. Some people will call you strange, intense, too deep, or too suspicious because it's easier than admitting they can't hide from you. They like people who don't look them in the eye, don't say anything, and go along with the lies. But you don't do that. You don't act like you don't see what's right in front of you. You don't lower your awareness to make other people feel better. In a world where most people choose darkness, your clarity stands out. That's why they're so scared of you. Not because you're a threat, but because you're awake. You see what they want to hide. You know what they're trying to hide. And you know what they don't want anyone to find out. That's a blessing and a curse for anyone who is fake. Number 6. They are scared because they know they would have given up right away if they were in your story. People are most upset by your success. It's the strength you needed to get here. Everyone knows what their breaking point is deep down. They know the times that would have broken them, the times that would have sent them over the edge, and the times that would have made them lose their minds. When they see you and realize you've been through things that would have broken them right away, they have to face a truth they don't want to. Your baseline strength is much higher than what they can handle at their best. People judge you based on how weak they are. They think you'll fall apart like they would. They think you'll respond, fall apart, or give up like they would. So when you don't, when you get up, when you stay calm, and when you keep going in the right direction, they get scared. They can't understand how someone who went through 10 times the stress is still standing strong. They try to make sense of it. downplay it, or act like it wasn't that big of a deal. Because admitting the truth hurts their pride. They know they wouldn't have made it through your story, and that knowledge makes them feel bad about themselves in ways they aren't ready to deal with. Most people don't want to face the fact that they can't handle your survival. People love to think they're strong until they see someone who's been through storms they can't even imagine going through. They can't handle the thought of being in your shoes. You didn't just make it through. You changed and grew. You didn't just make it through. You changed and learned it. They can't copy how you kept going even though you were bleeding inside. And that's what makes them nervous. They think it's unfair that you exist. Like you were made with different wiring. They can't understand how you keep going, loving, and thinking clearly after carrying burdens that would have broken them on the first day. They call it toughness, luck, divine protection, or mysterious resilience. But deep down they know it's something else. You are living proof that strength isn't just about muscles. It's about the spirit, and your soul has lived through things that their spirit never could have. That's why people not only admire your survival, but also fear it. Number 7. Your spirit doesn't break the rules of reality. It breaks the illusions that people thought were real. People think you're changing reality when they look at your life. They think you're doing things that shouldn't be possible, getting results that don't make sense, and getting results that don't require any effort. But the truth is much simpler and much more disturbing for them. You are not breaking the rules of reality. You're breaking the fake rules that they base their whole lives on. You're not breaking the rules of life. You're working outside of the fears and beliefs that they thought were true. And that difference is what really gets to them. People tend to believe in limits that were set for them before they ever thought about them. They take on doubts from their surroundings, fears from their childhood, and insecurities from society. And then they believe everything they hear. They make their lives around rules that were never real. That's why people like you, who won't bow down to the fake walls they worship, mess with their worldview. They don't know how to deal with someone whose mind isn't bound by the same chains. The miracles you call miracles are just the result of not letting yourself be programmed. You don't accept thinking that leads nowhere. You don't accept ceilings that are only there because everyone else agreed not to go past them. You don't let fear of others control your life. And because you don't think of limits as sacred, you walk right past them with a confidence that seems otherworldly to those who still believe in them. Just being alive makes them question everything they thought was set in stone, final, or unchangeable. When you do well in areas they thought you couldn't, it makes them question the limits they set for themselves. When you get back up after things go wrong that should have killed you, it shows that their ideas of limits were never based on reality, but on fear. People are most scared when they realize they've been living in a cage with the door open the whole time, and nothing scares them more than someone who leaves. You didn't break the world, you shattered the illusion they believed to be reality. And once someone knows that freedom is possible, they can never act like they didn't see it. That's why they are afraid of your spirit. Not because you're impossible, but because you show that impossibility was always a lie. Number 8. They don't like that you don't need permission, validation, or agreement to move. People are scared of your independence because it shows how much they need others to get by. People can't do anything without first checking who agrees, who approves, who's watching, and who might judge them. Their decisions are affected by the crowd. Their confidence is borrowed, and their identity is tied to how the crowd reacts. That's not how you work. You act based on instinct, conviction, and clarity. You do things because you feel like you should, not because someone told you to. That kind of self-assuredness is rare, and rare things always make people feel insecure. People aren't used to someone who doesn't ask for permission. They are used to not being sure, second to guessing, and thinking in groups. They think you should look for validation the same way they do. So when you don't, they get mad. Even when most people would, your freedom shows how much they need you. It shows them how often they put off their goals, how often they make themselves smaller, and how much power they've given to opinions that don't matter. Your lack of fear becomes a mirror, and most people don't like mirrors that show the truth. Your progress is hard to predict because you don't get applause for your moves. You don't need a cheerleading team to get started, and you don't need anyone's permission to keep going. You do what you need to do quietly, with confidence, and without asking anyone to understand your plan. You don't change the world. It changes to fit you. And that kind of energy throws off people who have spent their whole lives looking for comfort. They don't get how you can trust yourself enough to take risks that they wouldn't take, even with a whole committee behind them. And that's where the anger comes from. Their fear is heavy because you are independent. Your choices make them think of all the chances they missed because they were too busy asking for permission. Your confidence shows them what they could have done if they weren't so worried about what other people might think. Not only do they envy your freedom, they are also afraid of it. You are a threat just because you can move without a crowd. You don't let other people's opinions control you, and you don't break down when things are quiet. You make your own progress. You make your own proof. You make your own way. They've never been able to trust themselves that much, and that's why they are more scared of you being there than of your success. Number 9. They think your ability to adapt is magic because they only know how to follow patterns. People are afraid of things they can't do again, and your growth shows them a truth they've been trying to avoid for years. They aren't alive. They are looping. You don't change because life is easy for you. You change because your spirit won't let you die where it was hurt. You change where they recycle. You see where they respond. You make them better where they repeat. Being able to change isn't a skill. It's awareness. It's the ability to take a hit, learn from it, and change the whole battlefield without needing more time or sympathy. They hold on to their old identities like security blankets, though. They don't change or grow. They just practice. They run the same script again and again, but with different reasons. Their mind stopped growing years ago, so your movement seems otherworldly to them. They think your ability to change is magic because they've never had to deal with anything outside of their comfort zone. They call your progress luck, mystery, or coincidence because if they admitted you made it, they would have to admit how much of their own life they gave up to fear. This is the truth. What they say is impossible is just something they were too scared to try with confidence. The part of your journey they call overnight is the part they never lived through. They call it magic, but it's really just the result of hard work they've never done. Your ability to change shows the spiritual laziness, mental rigidity, and emotional paralysis that they've been hiding behind normal all their lives. And that's why they think you're bad. You were proof that limits are made by people. You didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped following the lies. 10. When you walk away from destruction like nothing happened, people start to talk behind your back. People think that trauma will leave marks. They think that destruction will change who you are, make you lose confidence, and leave you with visible cracks. When you survive something that was meant to erase you and come out of it with your mind clear, it changes everything they thought they knew about how the world works. It's not normal for your intuition to get better after being betrayed. It's not normal to come back from sabotage with more knowledge than you had before. And it's not normal to be able to avoid traps like you already knew where they were before you got to the battlefield. Most people can't handle emotional stress because they weren't taught how to do it. They think that panic is danger. They mix up fear and gut feelings. They see failures as part of who they are. But you are built differently, and your beliefs about what should happen after destruction are stronger than theirs. You don't just get better. You figure out what the experience means. You take out the pattern. You keep the lesson. And then you leave. As if the storm was just a school you outgrew. People start to whisper, how did they survive that? Why do they look stronger? Why aren't they broken? Because the truth scares them. You break the cycle of cause and effect that controls most people's emotions. They expect trauma and breakdown. They expect to be let down and angry. They expect things to go wrong and fall apart. They think there will be traps and shame. But you leave with your peace, your plan, and you're so still in line. And now they have to rethink everything they thought they knew about you. They don't want to admit that they didn't give you enough credit for your strength, intuition, or spiritual wiring. Instead, they go for the easiest answer. It must be something magical. It has to be supernatural. It has to be luck. If they were honest and said that you mastered yourself at a level they've never even tried, they would have to face their own flaws, their own lack of growth, and their own spiritual immaturity. You don't just walk away from destruction like it never happened. You walk away as if everything went your way. And for those who still think pain has the last word, that level of inner mastery seems impossible. Number 11. What scares them the most is how come you are under a lot of stress. When people are stressed, they usually make noise. They freak out, go too far, lose their cool, and show their weaknesses without anyone having to push them. Stress makes their instability clear right away. But your brain is wired differently. You don't lose yourself when things get tough. You become more like yourself. Your thoughts become clearer instead of more scattered. Your feelings don't explode. They stay stable, and your gut feeling comes to the front like a guide that only shows up when things get tough. Your calm isn't just there. It's a sign that you've been through enough storms to know how to handle your own weather. You don't work out of fear. You work from a place of awareness. While others are lost in the moment, you start to think, watch, and feel patterns that most people can't even see. That's why enemies can't stand it. They depend on chaos to win. They use emotional responses to get what they want. They want you to fall apart on cue so they can win without doing much. But when you don't break, yell, or fall apart like they thought you would, they're left open. Their lack of discipline shows through your calmness. Your stillness makes them look weak. They can see how easily they can be thrown off balance when you stay calm under pressure. It makes them face something that makes them uncomfortable. You're not playing the same mind game they are. They use manipulation, stress, and emotional traps to get what they want. You work by following your gut, aligning with others, and using your inner strength. They want you to panic so that their plans make sense. They want you to be loud so their attacks can hide in the noise. They need to shake you up so they can feel in charge. But instead, your silence is the loudest thing in the room. Not the usual kind of silence, but the kind that shows you can be moved. The kind that shows you're planning, thinking, tracking, and choosing. And that scares them, because the person who stays calm during the attack usually knows how it will end. They can't predict what you'll do, can't control you, and can't touch you. When you are under pressure, it shows your true strength. Number 12. They're scared because every time they think you're going to fail, you come back with a version of yourself that they weren't ready for. Your enemies aren't just scared of how strong you are. They're also tired of how much you've changed. People think that every time life hits you, it will be the blow that finally knocks you out. They whisper, wait, and watch for the moment you break down so they can say, I knew it. But as soon as the dust settles, you come back, not weaker or broken, but sharper than you were before. And that's what makes them nervous. You don't go back to the same version of you that they attacked last time. You come back with improvements that they didn't plan for. A new level of strategy, a new level of discipline, a new level of emotional intelligence, and a new level of spiritual alignment. It doesn't look right to them. They don't understand how someone can go through pain, betrayal, sabotage, and disappointment and still come out stronger than before. It makes them feel bad because it shows something they don't want to show. They don't get bigger. They don't change. They don't change. Every year, they stay stuck in the same habits, fears, and way of thinking. When they see you change after things go wrong, it threatens what they believe. If you can change, they might be able to. And that truth hurts. What scares them the most is that their attacks don't make you weaker. They make you stronger. You learn in chaos. Your sharpening stone is the opposition. Your setbacks become your tools. They are trying to break you, but in the process, they help you grow. Without even knowing it, they are helping you grow. They are confused by your strength because it goes against what they thought you would do. Most people can't handle stress. Most people stay hurt, but you turn wounds into wisdom, losses into power, and failures into fuel. They're still waiting for you to fail, but all they see are a series of comebacks that take you even further ahead. You're the only person whose death doesn't cause ruin. It causes change. That's why they are afraid of you. You don't just get through the storm. You grow because of it. Number 13. Your life doesn't fit with what they think about cause and effect. Your enemies can't stand how everything they thought they knew about how life should work falls apart when it comes to you. They used a simple formula to get things done. Do harm to someone and watch them fall. Sabotage someone and see them fall apart. Undermine someone and watch their path fall apart. They believed in that logic. That was the plan they were given as kids. They thought that system would work for you as well. But you were the one they never saw coming. They chose you because they thought their actions would make your life a mess. Instead, those very moments were the turning points that took you to higher ground. They thought that messing with you would make you confused. It helped you learn. They thought that betraying you would make you lose faith in yourself. It made you better at making decisions. They thought that not being there would make you weaker. They didn't think you could do it, but it made you independent. It wasn't just annoying that they failed. It made things less stable. It broke the chain of cause and effect that they thought ran the world. The most frightening thing for them is the thought that they were never the strong person in your life that they thought they were. They thought of themselves as problems, giants, and things that should steer you. Then life revealed the truth. They were stepping stones, catalysts, and things that happened by chance that helped you rise. Everything bad they planned for you went wrong and came back to them instead. You walked away with upgrades you didn't ask for, beg for, or owe them. You move energy without trying to. You change things without telling anyone. You get ahead in ways that make people wonder if the universe is set up to help you. They don't like it because it proves something their ego doesn't want to believe. They can't change or stop the flow you're in. You work on a schedule that they can't see. They don't believe in the realms that help you. People who rely on predictable outcomes find your life to be illogical, and nothing scares an enemy more than finding out that their weapons weren't really weapons. They were attacks that were really promotions. You didn't just get away with it. You used the damage to your advantage, and that makes them question everything they thought they knew. Number 14. They know deep down that you aren't doing the impossible. You're doing something they were too scared to try. It's not that you're superhuman that makes your enemies uneasy. It's because you want to. You move toward the things they avoid. You step into challenges they rehearse excuses for. You take risks they talk themselves out of before even trying. And every time you succeed at something they wrote off as impossible, it forces them to confront a truth they've been running from. They never got to those heights because they didn't have the guts to climb. Your life shines an uncomfortable light on their hesitation. They see you breaking free from patterns that kept them stuck. They see you taking bold steps in places where they only tiptoed. They see you transforming your mindset while they're still repeating the same stories from 5 years ago. They can't get away from the fact that you are changing. It shows the potential they'd buried under fear, excuses, laziness, and comfort. It exposes how much of their life was driven by avoidance rather than ambition. They call you Houdini because it lets them pretend your growth is magic instead of discipline. It's easier for them to label you mystical than to admit you were simply brave enough to do what they didn't. If they say you're supernatural, they don't have to admit they could have changed, too. If they were willing to pay the price, your breakthroughs disturb them because they unravel their narrative of I can't, showing that the real story was I won't. Every risk you take reminds them of the risks they rejected. Every upgrade you achieve reminds them of the versions of themselves they abandoned. Every time you reinvent your life, they're confronted with all the times they chose comfort instead of growth. And that's why your success feels personal to them. Not because you hurt them, but because your existence exposes the limits they placed on themselves. What they call impossible was never impossible. They just didn't have the courage to try. But you did. And deep down, they know that's the only difference. They're not afraid of your power. They're afraid of realizing they could have had it, too. Conclusion. The truth is simple. Yeah, most people will never see it clearly. You aren't just surviving. You're rewriting the rules. Every step you take, every trap you dodge, every challenge you transform into growth is a reminder that the limitations others worship were never meant for you. You don't bend to circumstance. You evolve because of it. You don't break under pressure. You rise sharper, wiser, and stronger. And the people who try to confine you, manipulate you, or diminish you can only watch, whispering in confusion, because your life exposes truths they weren't ready to face about themselves. Your strength isn't loud or flashy. It's subtle, unending, and deeply ingrained. They didn't know there were fires that could make you stronger. And every scar, every moment of endurance has become the blueprint of your unstoppable presence. What terrifies the most isn't your power. It's that you live without fear, without validation, without permission. You take risks they can't imagine taking, make moves they wouldn't dare attempt, and turn attacks meant to destroy you into the very instruments of your rise. Your existence becomes a mirror reflecting their hesitation, fear, and complacency, and that reflection forces them to confront a reality they've spent their lives avoiding. In every situation where others expected your downfall, you prove them wrong. In every place where they assumed their rules would hold you captive, you broke free. Every obstacle, every betrayal, every attempt to contain or control you only amplified your evolution. You are living proof that resilience, courage, and clarity are far more powerful than numbers, manipulation, or fear. Your journey isn't just about survival, it's about transformation, elevation, and the unstoppable momentum of a spirit that refuses to be defined by the limits others impose. So remember this: your story inspires, it shakes, and it unsettles because it challenges the status quo. Every time someone underestimates you, they provide the fuel for your next rise. You don't just live, you thrive in ways that force the universe itself to bend to your alignment, and that more than anything is what makes you truly untouchable. If this message resonated with you and reminded you of the power you hold within, make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay connected with content that uplifts and awakens your inner strength. Like this video if you feel unstoppable. Please leave a comment below to tell your story of success and send it to someone who needs to be reminded of how strong they are. Your story, your energy, and your rise are all important. Keep going. God bless you.